You see him on the news.
CNN.com contributor, Dean Obeidallah. So, Dean...
Watch him at comedy clubs.
When I say Mecca, do you think of a holy place or an urban clothing line?
Read his articles. And you hear him on the radio. The Dean Obeidallah Show is on live right here on SiriusXM Progress, Channel 127.
And welcome to the Dean Obeidallah Show, brothers and sisters of the resistance. Wednesday, November 28th. It's as if you need a law degree at this point to follow the news. There is so much legal stuff going on, and we're going to break it down the best I can in a way through the radio without images to make it understandable and so that you can see the Trump crime family laid out in front of you. But first, a little humor from Trevor Noah last night on the huge tax cuts and GM closing a plant. Here's clip number one.
People are pissed off for two reasons. Right? One, like all big corporations, GM just got a huge tax cut. But they didn't use that money to protect these jobs. No, they mostly used it to prop up the price of their own stock through buybacks. And we can't really be surprised that a business would do that, right? Businesses always try to maximize their profits. That's what a business does. If a business isn't making money, it's either a charity or Trump is running it. That's how it works.
Only two types of businesses. One's charities and Trump-running businesses that don't make money. So let's talk about some of the legal stuff going on, my friends. And today has been a law. I was on Dan Abrams' show. Today is a show in this very studio, in our studio. Dan Abrams steals our studio every day. But we talked law for almost an hour, and we're going to continue to talk about a lot of the legal stuff that's breaking down today. And first and foremost, Donald Trump has clearly been freaking out the last 2 days. He has tweeted 7 times in the last 2 days about Robert Mueller, including one today, tweeting, while the disgusting fake news is doing everything within their power not to report it that way, at least 3 major players were intimating, unreal, that angry Mueller gang of Dems is visually telling witnesses to lie about facts and they will get relief. This is our Joe McCarthy era. It's not. And to show how unhinged Donald Trump was, he retweeted an image from someone else's website, Twitter handle. And if you're not on Twitter, it just meant he shared it with his 50 million followers, a picture of Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, Robert Mueller, Loretta Lynch, and a few others behind bars with the idea they should be prosecuted for treason. Think about this. The man in the White House, he's not the president. We have no president. We have an illegitimate president. It's 40. Our next president is the 45th. This is the asterisk president. That's what I call him. I'm pronouncing the word asterisk correctly. I feel better about myself because I learned from a listener. But Donald Trump is tweeting saying that Barack Obama and Robert Mueller and Hillary Clinton and Loretta Lynch have committed treason. Think of that through for a second. If you're unstable and you believe that, would you not want to attack or even kill them? But Trump doesn't care because Trump is freaking out. And why? Well, we learned last night after the show something that was startling. Something, as a lawyer myself, I cannot believe. I've never heard. I was never taught this in law school, that this was a possibility. But it happened. Paul Manafort has been sharing information, potentially confidential information he learned from the Mueller investigation because he had flipped and said he was cooperating with them with the Trump team. This is unreal. The New York Times last night broke the story that Manafort repeatedly briefed Trump's lawyers on his discussions with investigators from the Mueller team. And if there was any doubt, because last night the reporting was confidential source and I expected to hear fake news from Trump, nope. It has now been confirmed. 100% true. Rudy Giuliani, who we think is a clown, is Trump's lawyer, told the Associated Press, no doubt, no dispute, no denial, that Manafort's lawyer, Kevin Downing, has been briefing the Trump legal team about what they've been asking Paul Manafort and talked about specifically one thing here, the 2016 June Trump Tower meeting, which we're going to get to. And so much, I think, might hinge on that meeting. I'm getting the sense this meeting might be a place where we're going to really find criminality. But think about this. Paul Manafort, a guy, as a reminder, in August was convicted in federal court in Virginia of 8 of 18 counts, including bank and tax fraud. And in September then, before his next trial, because he had 2 different trials in 2 different jurisdictions in federal court, he pled guilty in September right before that trial, pled guilty to conspiracy and witness tampering. In exchange, he cooperated with Mueller. He said he's going to cooperate with Mueller in the hope of getting a more lenient sentence because he's not been sentenced yet. Despite this deal with the U.S. government, despite the idea of saying to the U.S. government, I'm on your side now, I'm part of your team, I'm going to give you information, and in return, you're going to help me. He was not doing that. He was playing the Mueller team. Why was he doing that? Well, here is Dan Abrams on Good Morning America today with his theory why. And Dan is a smart lawyer who's the chief legal counsel for ABC Network. And I agree with him. Let's play clip number 2.
Effectively, Manafort was saying with his plea, I'm on your side now. I'm with you, prosecutors, and I'm going to assist you in whatever way you need. In effect, he wasn't doing that. It's starting to feel like he was on a fact-finding mission for the Trump team to figure out exactly what do they want, what kinds of questions are they asking, et cetera.
And how could Trump's team use that?
Well, they could use it, publicly. It seems that some of President Trump's tweets were a direct response to information that he got from Manafort's team. It can allow him to prepare for a defense. It can allow him to prepare his report that he's going to use as a response, et cetera. But I think most importantly, it becomes a kind of a cudgel for them to use against Robert Mueller by saying, that he's trying to get witnesses to say certain things, et cetera.
It also reinforces what you were saying yesterday, that Manafort might be playing for a pardon from President
I don't
Trump.
think there's any question that he's playing for a pardon here.
So, my friends, there are some legal issues raised here for Donald Trump. Now, here's the truth. I don't think they're going to have Donald Trump on record telling Manafort or telling Manafort's lawyers to go do that. You're going to have buffers. So, but perhaps there's something, and we'll get into the illegality here. Now, let's talk about the pardon thing for a second here, because that's the big thing. Everyone's talking about Trump today saying, I've not ruled out a pardon for Paul Manafort. And from Paul Manafort's point of view, let's be blunt, he's a 69-year-old man who, from his first set of convictions, was going to go to jail for likely 10 to 12 years. That could be his natural life. The second set that he pled guilty to, yes, that would be his whole life if he was fully sentenced, if he didn't get a great deal from this government. But he could be holding out hope. Maybe I can get a pardon from Donald Trump. Well, here is Judge Napolitano on Fox News breaking down how Paul Manafort's promise of a pardon by Donald Trump might be an illusory charade of a promise of a get out of jail free card. Because let's hear Judge Napolitano, clip number 3.
This guilty plea is 175 pages long. Shep, in my career, I've never seen one like this. It was so carefully crafted by Bob Mueller and signed by Paul Manafort that at the time he pleaded guilty to the charges for which he was indicted, which was basically bank fraud and money laundering and some form of commercial bribery of foreign officials, in federal court, he also pleaded guilty to uncharged state crimes in New Jersey, in Virginia, and in California. Why did they do that? To make it pardon-proof, so that if President Trump, which he can do, does pardon him for the federal crimes, the state prosecutors in those states already have his guilty plea.
Pardon-proof. It's not get out of jail free. Now there is some legal complexity in what could happen. He has pled guilty in that he was tried in federal court in the first set of cases. Can he be tried again in a state court for the same crime? Well, there's a concept, double jeopardy. We've all heard of it. Most people probably understand it. The idea you cannot be tried twice for the same crimes. And it does come into play here. But, for example, in New York, a former district attorney was quoted and made it, this is a very completely accurate point, that there are certain crimes he cannot be tried for again in New York, but he could be for tax fraud, not paying his taxes here in New York. And so it's not get out of jail free, but as a practical matter, if Donald Trump were to pardon Paul Manafort today, literally today, right now, Paul Manafort's in federal prison, he would be released. It would be up to states' attorney generals or district attorneys to file new charges against Paul Manafort, use his own testimony against him, or when he pled guilty in federal court in September, use those words against him. They could do that. but it'll be a whole new trial. But it gives him out of prison for a little while here. Is he going to be charged with more crimes, Paul Manafort? I have no doubt. You know, Daniel Goldman, a former federal prosecutor on MSNBC all the time, said that if you were trying to corruptly influence his testimony, Manafort's, by dangling a pardon, that could be witness tampering, and he meant that specific to Trump, but also obstruction of justice with potentially Paul Manafort. And to remind everyone, obstruction of justice, and I don't want to make this a legal seminar because I want to get into more of the timeline of the facts, but just briefly, obstruction of justice in federal statute 18 U.S. Code 1505 says, whoever corruptly influences, obstructs, or impedes or endeavors to influence, obstruct, or impede the due and proper administration of the law, that is guilty of obstruction of justice. The key term is corruptly. It's a weird word. It's not a normal word, but it's defined by the statute. That means with an improper purpose. So if Donald Trump tried to make a deal with Paul Manafort to leak information with the goal being to stifle or impede the investigation of Robert Mueller, Trump could be charged. I don't think you're going to find Trump on record saying anything to Manafort directly. I think the lawyers that may be exposing themselves to some wrongdoing here. Again, I cannot tell you, this is the most stunning thing I've heard in this entire time, that a person who made a deal with the government is actually being a double agent against our government to help Donald Trump, who is the president of the government. It's like out of a movie. This is unreal. But we learned something else today, which I think is really telling. CNN got an exclusive. 2 of the answers that Donald Trump gave to Robert Mueller's questions. Why it was leaked to them, I'm not sure, but this is the 2 things. They were told that Donald Trump, in his answers to questions to Robert Mueller, said 2 things for sure. He said that Roger Stone did not tell him about the WikiLeaks connections. And second, he was never told about the 2016 Trump Tower meeting between his son, Jared Kushner, and Paul Manafort, promising dirt on Hillary in advance. He's saying he learned about all that stuff later. Let's break this down a little bit of time for TV, and you can see a chalkboard or a whiteboard right here. First thing, did Donald Trump know that Roger Stone was in communication with WikiLeaks during the campaign, before everything was released? Well, let's look at some of the timeline. In August 2016, in the campaign, Roger Stone publicly is declaring, I've communicated with Julian Assange from WikiLeaks. In mid-August, on both Alex Jones and WorldNet Daily, there's a horrible right-wing publication, both bragged about knowing Assange and that forthcoming material about Hillary Clinton will be released soon. September 16th, you got Roger Stone on Boston Herald Radio saying Assange is about to release a payload of new documents. October 1st, this is all during the campaign, Roger Stone tweets, Wednesday, Hillary Clinton is done, hashtag WikiLeaks. October 12th, Roger Stone tells a Florida radio station, quote, I've got a back-channel communication with Assange because of a mutual friend. To believe that Donald Trump didn't know about all this stuff in the media is ridiculous. The one thing Trump follows is the media. He knew Roger Stone is bragging about connections to WikiLeaks. And if he had any doubts, on October 11th, Donald Trump tweets, I hope people are looking at the disgraceful behavior of Hillary Clinton as exposed by WikiLeaks. She is unfit to run. The next day, Trump tweets, WikiLeaks, I love WikiLeaks. That's October 12th, 2016. October 14th, Don Jr. tweets about WikiLeaks. Later, October 14th, that same day, Mike Pence is on Fox News, asked about connection between Trump and WikiLeaks. Are they in cahoots? Mike Pence says nothing could be further from the truth. We know that's a lie now. Do I know Mike Pence knew that? I don't know that. But going to the first answer, the first question, we know Donald Trump saying he did not know Roger Stone was talking to WikiLeaks. That's almost impossible to believe, considering Roger Stone was publicly bragging in August that he knew WikiLeaks and saying information's coming out. And we also know that Roger Stone was in contact with his friend Jerome Kersey, telling him, according to the Mueller document we got yesterday, telling him, go talk to Julian Assange. That's the first one. The second one, that Donald Trump did not know about the Donald Trump Jr. meeting at Trump Tower until a year after the meeting, is completely unbelievable. Completely. If you believe that, contact me. I've got some unicorns I'm looking to sell. You're going to love them. They're great. They paint and they clean your house and they can drive you around. They're amazing unicorns. You're going to love them. Let's be honest. And this is sort of a debate I had with Dan Abrams today, who is not buying the fact that Trump, the father, knew about the meeting. And again, there's a reason why one of the two answers leaked have to do with this. And I think this leak comes from Giuliani to CNN. They are really concerned about Donald Trump knowing in advance what WikiLeaks was going to do and this meeting with Trump Jr. And to remind people, on June 3rd, 2016, Trump Jr. gets an email from his buddy in Russia saying the Crown Prosecutor of Russia is offered to provide the Trump campaign with some official documents and information that would incriminate Hillary and her dealings with Russia and would be very useful to your father. Continuing, this is very high level and sensitive information, but as part of Russia and its government support for Mr. Trump, Trump Jr. says, I love it. 6 days later, they got a meeting in Trump Tower when Trump is there. Paul Manafort, the campaign manager, is there, and Jared Kushner. Are you going to tell me that Don Jr. didn't tell his dad for a whole year after that about the meeting? I'm sure he told him immediately about the meeting. I have little doubt they're in the building. And he goes, Dad, you know Hillary, who you hate? And you know she got emails and all that stuff? Well, the Russians have got dirt on Hillary. Why would you not tell your dad that? Of course you would tell your dad that. June 9th, the meeting happens at Trump Tower. A month later, WikiLeaks published its first set of hacked emails on July 22nd, taking from the DNC. 5 days later, Donald Trump says, Russia, if you're listening, can you help us out? September 20th, a month later, WikiLeaks sends a direct message to Donald Trump Jr. on Twitter, talking about sharing a password for some anti-Trump PAC stuff. Trump Jr. responds off the record, I don't know who's got that, but I'll ask around. This is a crime family. This is unreal what we are seeing, the way it's laid out. I'm building like a chart. I'm going to put it in my apartment. I've got it now on my computer. It's like timeline, and I keep filling in things, and it's remarkable to see how things match up. I can only imagine what Mueller's got in his offices about timelines from Donald Trump and about the first time the DNC gets hacked, to Paul Manafort reportedly now going to meet in March of 2016 with Julian Assange in the Ecuador embassy. In March 2016, that's when he started on the campaign. That's when Russia first attacked the emails. This is unbelievable what is going on in front of us right here. It is like a movie. And if I had a chalkboard and I could show it to you all, your mouth would drop open because you cannot believe either what is going on. Now, first of all, if anyone's worried that Robert Mueller showed Paul Manafort all the details and inner workings of their prosecution and every confidential piece of information they have, forget it. That didn't happen. But I must say this, that Trump's fake pretend Attorney General Whitaker can have access to that. And I think what is going on now is between Manafort, between this draft pleading of Jerome Kersey, who was going to plead guilty but chose not to plead guilty now, who's a Roger Stone associate, who's up to his neck in this stuff, a guy who got rid of all of his emails going back to last year, got rid of all of his emails for all of 2016, and behind that, because he didn't want to have anyone see the emails of him and Roger Stone talking about Julian Assange and WikiLeaks. And Whitaker telling him stuff. Trump is freaking out. This is where we're at right now. And I love when Trump freaks out in the morning. Like, he tweets like crazy. His panic tweets smell like victory, my friends. And if you've ever seen Apocalypse Now, you know what I'm talking about. Smells like victory. If you don't rent the movie after the show, watch it. We'll talk tomorrow. But Trump is freaking. The walls are closing. Manafort, he'll pardon anyone. He will do anything. And again, pardoning, a president has the absolute power to pardon. But if he does it in a way to obstruct this investigation, it is obstruction of justice on its own. It does not, You can do legal acts with an illegal purpose, a corrupt purpose, and you can be charged with obstructing justice. So my question to you, first of all, did any of this make sense? I'm reading it on paper, so it all looks good. If you're listening at home, I'd love to know what you thought about the timeline. I'm doing my best here. I so wish I could send you all pictures and images and you'd see a timeline together. But more importantly than that, if Trump is freaking out today, what do we expect more? They're closing in on Donald Trump. The House is going to go to the Democrats January 3rd. He knows that. No more Devin Nunes, warm baths, and back rubs. It's now the time they're going to be investigated fully. Everyone from Ivanka Trump to Donald Trump Jr. to everyone in that administration's done anything wrong. We're going to see it happen. And again, I cannot believe that Paul Manafort had agreed to work with our government. That's what it is, to work with our government. When you're working with a U.S. attorney or special counsel with our government and betrayed our government for Donald Trump. He betrayed our government for Donald Trump. Donald Trump is not doing anything for our nation. It's for Donald Trump, the person, and his family, trying to stay out of jail. Paul Manafort is a traitor. He betrayed our country. And the question is, did the Trump people offer him a pardon to do that? And if they did, anybody involved in that offer would be charged with either witness tampering, a federal crime, or obstruction of justice, if not both. I cannot believe Trump himself is stupid enough to have said that. If he said it to one of his attorneys, will that attorney flip on Trump the way John Dean did on Richard Nixon? Maybe, maybe not. But we're in a whole new place. We are really in a new place right now. So I'd love to hear from you. You're my guest at the top of the hour, 866-997-4748, 866-997-4748. In your life, have you ever heard of a crime family like this being in the White House? This is like something you would see in a miniseries later, a true crime miniseries on Netflix, The Trumps. Unreal. All right, let's take a break. I'd love to hear from you, 866-997-4748, right here on the Dean Obeidallah Show. Progressive values are the best of American values, and we need to keep fighting for them to save our country.
Don't go anywhere. This is the Dean Obeidallah Show on Sirius XM Progress 127.